Okay, so Aphelios is a rather unique champion. He is not one of those marksmen that you can just pick up and play perfectly after 2 or 3 games. Aphelios has weird combos and power spikes you first need to get used to, and he is super squishy, which means any mistake you make will be very costly. But those of you who truly master Aphelios get rewarded with satisfying combos and insane damage potential. He is one of the strongest late-game hypercarries you can play, and in this Aphelios guide you will learn exactly how Aphelios is played in Challenger Elo for optimal results. We will first discuss Aphelios' best rune and item setups, of course, so you can copy those right away. But then we will have a close look at how the multi-season challenger and professional player Flacked makes perfect use of Aphelios at all stages of the game, so let's get ready. For runes, you want Press the Attack, Overheal, Legend Bloodline and Cutdown with Taste of Blood and Treasure Hunter secondary. When it comes to the optimal Aphelios keystone, you will already find multiple conflicting opinions. While Fleet Footwork definitely has its niche against poke lane matchups in which you need the extra sustain and kiting, the point of issue is definitely the question of lethal tempo versus Press the Attack. Even amongst Challenger Aphelios players, it is not 100% clear, but from what I can see, most of them prefer Press the Attack. The idea behind lethal tempo would be that you want it for the late game so you are then as strong as possible, since this is the best ADC keystone for scaling. Press the Attack though, while still good in the late game, is much stronger during the early game when compared to lethal tempo Aphelios. And early game pressure is incredibly important for late game hypercarries since you want as high a chance as possible to actually reach your late game in the first place. Flacked plays PTA, and in my opinion you should too. Overheal is always a must on Aphelios because the champion is so squishy, but with its new buffs the rune is even better. Since Aphelios has lifesteal in his kit and also in his runes, you will consistently gain tons of value from Overheal. However, shields do not technically count as bonus health, so you can still weaponize Aphelios' lack of bulk with the rune Cutdown. Meant for dealing with tanks, on Aphelios this minor rune will deal huge damage even against relatively squishy champions. Taste of Blood follows the same logic as Fleet Footwork or Press the Attack. If your early game is reliably strong, you will reach your late game and then you can carry from there. Most Aphelios players also pick the rune Ingenious Hunter to lower their Gale Force cooldown, but Flacked and many other Challenger players prefer Treasure Hunter. Sure, you need to play around your Gale Force a little bit more carefully, but the extra gold income again lets you more consistently reach your unstoppable late game. By the way, keep in mind that if you want to have educational league content like this in your personal feed, all you need to do is click the subscribe button. The standard item build for Aphelios that can be used in most games is Gale Force and Bloodthirster for your core items. It is the perfect mix of offense and defense, as Gale Force's active can be game-changing in many different situations. Narrow escapes and clutch kills. Bloodthirster with its buffed shield in combination with buffed overheal makes Aphelios surprisingly tanky, so you are not nearly as vulnerable as you were during the early game. And while the late game items are flexible, you will always get value from Infinity Edge, Lord Doms and Guardian Angel if you're not sure what would be the best option in your specific matchup. But remember, itemizing against specific opposing threats is what differentiates good players from exceptional ones. In the game we're about to analyze, for example, Flacked ends up with a full build of Gale Force, Bloodthirster, Infinity Edge, Rapid Fire Cannon and Morph Malmortius. It is noteworthy that he bought Hex Drinker immediately after Bloodthirster, and you will shortly see why. He also sat on tier 1 boots for most of the game, only upgrading them when he was practically full build. Flacked trusted in his ability to not waste his Gale Force, and the movement speed from its mythic passive helped as well, of course. Additionally, he values attack damage more than attack speed for burstier trades, so delaying Berserkers was his call. This is, by the way, also why you prioritize attack damage first, lethality second and attack speed last with Aphelios' skill points. But let's finally jump into the analysis. The most important thing right from the start, Aphelios level 1 is extremely weak since you got no spells, only auto attacks. This is why Flacked is reluctant to walk up here in case his opponents try to cheese him from the lane bush, which is exactly what happens. As you can see, the enormous power from Press the Attack allows Aphelios to trade evenly here, despite Lucian being a strong early game champion. Keeping enemy cheese options in mind is super important, especially when you play the weakest level 1 champion in the entire game. Now from level 2 onwards, Aphelios can deal huge damage already, since you now have access to all your spells. You can get up to 4 Q casts back to back by getting to less than 10 ammo on both your weapons and then pressing QWQ, QWQ. However, Aphelios is still very frail, so Flact tries to passively farm while freezing the wave close to his tower so the enemy jungler cannot abuse his weak early defenses. At the same time, the enemy bots must overextend here, forcing them to play more carefully too, which is perfect if you just want to scale. When the freeze eventually breaks and turns into a slow push, you still last it as late as possible. The wave of allied minions that is stacking up next to you is an extra source of protection, shielding you from opposing aggression while you have to leave the safety of your tower. Again, you want as safe a lane as possible for the best chances to carry the late game. In terms of weapon management, by the way, you always want to look for your red-white power spike, as this is your strongest combo. Flact sets this up by sitting on white and then depleting his purple gun to instantly continue the fight with the 2 broken weapons, so the enemy doesn't see it coming. This is very likely to catch them off guard. Unfortunately, Syndra surprise ganked bot lane, but you get the idea. Again, red-white is the exception because it is so powerful. You should still play defensively during the lane phase if possible. However, as soon as you get your mythic item Gale Force, you can start looking for aggressive plays, as the burst damage from your Q spells and your item in combination with press the attack is extremely high. Sure, you die just as easily, but trading 1 for 1 always favors the late game champion for obvious reasons. Now as lane phase is over, Aphelios starts to grow more and more powerful. Look at this mid-game wave clear, delicious. But while a champion like Aphelios is good late game insurance, Flact's teammates however are not looking too hot right now. They've been dying left and right, losing dragons, towers and even Baron in the process. This is what the gold graph looks like at this point, but let's see what a 2 items Challenger Aphelios can do here. Pay special attention to Flact's positioning. Note how Flact made use of the massive range in his ultimate and his sniper Q, while always patiently waiting for his frontline before he fully committed himself. Against hyper-fed enemies, you have to be as careful as possible. Now in a position like this, you have to remember your win condition. Just farm it up as safely as you can, since you have to try and match the opponent's items. They'll stop scaling eventually, and every single item on Aphelios just matters so much more. This is also why Flact bought Hexdrinker here, so he is as unlikely as possible to get punished by the fed Syndra and Diana. Otherwise, they'd be a huge problem. Also, please note how Aphelios is specifically not assigned to farm the super minions in bot lane, despite them being a safe source of income. Instead, he has to stay near the team, since his massive damage potential is their only way out of this dire situation. If a teamfight breaks out, Flact has to be there, or the game would be lost instantly. They dodged his ultimate, but Aphelios still one-shot the enemy Syndra with Gale Force, which is crucial. That kill ultimately leads to blue team being able to fend off the Baron push bot lane as well, so they are in fact still in this game. And the longer the game goes, the better for Aphelios. Evidently, when you are behind like that, you cannot set up teamfights in a way that matches your weapon combo power spike. But whenever you get to red-white, you should definitely look for a pick or maybe even a skirmish when given the chance. This is also why Gale Force is so crazy on Aphelios, as it can force a fight on the enemy with its active when you got your combo ready. Red Q into white auto attacks. Absolutely crazy. Picks like these will help your team to stay afloat and stabilize. And if you can stall for long enough, your allies will be strong eventually, even if they fed the enemy earlier. But especially Aphelios will hard outscale the opposing AD carry, who now looks almost useless by comparison. Yes, red team is still heavily in the lead, now even claiming the Dragon's Soul, but look what a well-played Aphelios can do here despite all that. Important Aphelios ulti to thwart the opposing engage, but also a huge play by Tahm Kench, of course. With all your lifesteal and crit, you mostly rely on your auto attacks in the late game anyway, so your weapon combos don't matter as much anymore. Play to the strengths of your current weapons as much as possible, but don't stress too much over them. Keep in mind that Aphelios is still a crit marksman who can just right-click his targets to death. So with that in the back of our heads, let's look at this super late game teamfight in which Flacked is on his full item build. This fight is a beautiful example of why correct itemization for specific matchups is so important. Had Flacked just bought the standard items suggested by all the various stat websites out there, he would have certainly lost that game. Of course, your core build as Aphelios will be the same in pretty much all situations, but in the mid and late game, AD carries have way more options than people think, and they matter a lot. If you want to know precisely why you cannot trust win rates and suggestions made by stat websites, and therefore should always think for yourself instead, I've explained it in depth in another video. Just click the link on your screen right there.